In this video, we're going to talk about how you can start a six-figure recruiting agency in 60 days or less. Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Natasha, the business recruiter. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to focus on how you can actually start a six-figure recruiting agency in 60 days or less. I understand that there are so many strategies that are out there, so I'm going to walk you through some of the exact strategies that I leveraged in terms of getting my recruiting agency off of the ground. Believer that you can't actually go anywhere without having a plan. And this is a very simplistic plan or blueprint that I followed in terms of actually getting my recruiting agency off of the ground. And I actually still leverage this plan to this day. I literally followed these 8 steps to a T in order to drive success to my business. So let's go through each of them in a little bit more detail. So first, I focused on outlining all of the things that I needed in order to actually get my business off of the ground. So a business name, setting up my business entity, having my website together, as well as gathering my domain name. Pretty much anything that I needed in order to actually legitimize my business is what I went about setting up. Now, none of that was free, so I was definitely diligent about outlining the costs and what my overall budget was going to be. So there was money that came out of my pocket in order to get my business off of the ground. Now, that money that came out of my pocket was very minimal, at least in my opinion. It was around $500. And it's important to note that you can start a recruiting agency for as little as $500. But just know that the average cost can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 contingent on the tools, software, and items that you're leveraging in order to get your business off the ground. But once you're set on actually legitimizing your business, you can then move on to step 3. And this is the step in which you actually focus on finding your niche. And this doesn't just mean the type of industry that you're going to focus on from a recruiting perspective, but also what type of recruiting you're going to do. Are you going to focus more on direct placements, or are you going to focus more on the staffing side? Now, my advice and exactly how I started my business was to start out on the direct placement side. I then leveraged the revenue that I was getting from the direct placements in order to start the staffing side of my business. And to this day, 95% of my success has actually been realized through direct placements. But before you can actually make your first placement, there's a couple things that you actually have to do first. Starting with your contract, you want to ensure that you have your contract in place before you even start reaching out to prospective clients. I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. Once you actually get your first client, or at least first prospective client that is interested in putting a contract in place with you, you're going to be so worried about what it is that you need to say that you're really not going to be thinking through all of the elements that are associated with your contract. This is why it's important that you actually figure out what are those elements going to be within your contract before you actually start reaching out to prospective clients. This allows you to be intentional and strategic from the very beginning. That way, when you do get interest from prospective clients, you are already set and ready to go. So it also ensures that you won't miss anything. So I highly encourage that you complete your contract first, and I can assure you, you will thank me later. So once you have your contract, you can then focus on reaching out to prospective clients. And there's ultimately a lot of strategies that you can leverage in terms of reaching out to prospective clients. I got my first client from networking, but understand that there are a multitude of ways in which you can get your first client. And majority of my clients to this day have actually come from cold emailing. And that's actually where we're going to focus most of our time today. Because once you have steps 5 and 6 figured out, finding qualified candidates is the last step that you have to complete before you can get paid. So I do love statistics. I'm a huge fan of them, and I'm curious if you actually knew this one. In the US, the market size measured by revenue of the employment and recruiting agencies industry is $28.5 billion as of 2022, and it's actually expected to grow. So by 2025, that figure is actually expected to double. So when you keep that in mind in terms of the perspective of you starting your own recruiting agency, it's important to understand that there is enough room out there for everyone to win. And there's an opportunity for you, if you are interested in starting your own recruiting agency, to actually be very successful. You only need a small piece of this pie in terms of that $28.5 billion in order for you to consider yourself being successful with your agency. So if you were feeling a little bit discouraged about if you were going to be able to make an impact, I can assure you that there is enough room for everyone to make an impact as well as make an income within this industry. So if you're not familiar with what a cold email campaign is, then let's take a couple moments to actually go through it a little bit further. Cold email campaigns are great for everyone, but especially great for those individuals who might consider themselves to be introverted. And that's because it allows you the opportunity to really negotiate like a boss. Don't get me wrong, I do cold calling as well, but I love cold email and the power that I have in regards to cold emailing. And the success of your cold email campaign is really going to depend on your strategy. You have to have an understanding of your target audience before you actually get started. And this really goes back to your niche. You want to ask yourself, is your target audience aligned with the niche that you have decided to focus on? So for example, if your niche is healthcare, you want to make sure that the individuals that you're targeting in terms of decision makers are within the healthcare field. Now next is going to be your email sequence. How many emails are you going to send? When are you going to send them? You want to create a predetermined schedule. That way you can ensure that you're able to be consistent in terms of your cold email sequence. And lastly, you want to make sure that you have an idea in regards to what you're going to say within your cold email sequence. You shouldn't be sending the same email over and over. I can assure you if you do that your prospective client is not going to answer your email or probably even open your email. You really want to get yourself into the mind of your prospective client and understand what it is that they want to see and or read in terms of the cold email that's going to foster a reaction. Meaning, what is it that you need to put within your cold email to actually have them interested in the services that you provide? So with that, I want to let you in on the biggest secret of all when it comes to cold emailing. And this secret is something that I have continued to follow and will continue to do in terms of running my recruiting agency because it works so well. And the secret to my success is the 6 principles of sales psychology. Now, I know a lot of people out there hate sales, and don't get me wrong, I can definitely say that I hate it to an extent as well. However, you probably equate sales to someone who comes to your door trying to sell you something that you know for a fact that you really do not want, and that's the extent of the experience that you have in regards to sales. However, sales is so much more, and when you take a step back and actually really think about the big picture, there is so much power in sales. If you think about the example that I provided in terms of that individual coming to your door trying to sell you something that you know that you're not interested in, think about it from the perspective of what their job is. Their job is to convert you as a prospective customer. Their job is to convert you as a prospective customer into an actual customer. And when you think about it, we actually do the same thing within recruiting. However, we actually take it a step further. We are trying to turn leads into clients and candidates into hires. And in order to do that effectively, we need a framework. So let's go through my secret, which is the 6 principles of sales psychology. Now, number 1 is reciprocity. And this is basically give and take. You do something for me and I'll do something for you. In recruiting, specifically cold emails, this could look like if I solved your hiring gap, then you will do business with me. Number 2 is commitment and consistency. And this one I can actually not stress enough. While it is pretty self-explanatory, in cold emailing, this actually looks like following up. This is where your email sequence really comes into play. Once you've made the decision to actually reach out to a prospective client, you want to make sure that you see it through. This means that you're following up in terms of the full email sequence that you have drafted out. So even if you're not getting response by email 3, 4, or 5, let's say that your sequence is 8, you want to make sure that you get to email number 8 and really see it through. So my advice is don't get frustrated if you're not getting a response. If you did all of the work in the very beginning in order to put the sequence together, you owe it to yourself to see it through. There's been plenty of times where I actually have not gotten a response from a cold email until email 7 or 8, meaning if I would have stopped at email number 4, I never would have had the opportunity to do business with that client. So it's important that you're consistent in regards to following up. Now, number 3 is social proof. And this is really diving into the fact that we're human and we're open for influence. If we notice that someone else is doing something and it seems like it's working, then 9 times out of 10, we're probably going to want to learn or do that exact same thing. So with cold emailing, this really is associated with you appearing like you're legitimate. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to ensure that you actually have your email. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to actually ensure that you have your website together. And not just any website, but a website that actually shows who you are, the value that you bring, and ultimately how you've been able to make an impact for past clients. And this also means that your website should be somewhere linked within your email, particularly your email signature. Now, number 4 and 5 are liking and authority. And these together are definitely a delicate balance. You want prospective clients to find your email warm and helpful, but you also don't want to be too aggressive. This is where cold emails not being in the moment communication can actually really work in your favor. Because you took the time to put together a strategy and what you're actually going to say is a part of that strategy, you know that you can be thoughtful and really intentional about what it is that you do say in terms of the actual words within your email. And lastly is scarcity, which is basically FOMO, or the fear of missing out. Maybe this looks like some type of special placement fee if they sign a contract to work with you within a certain amount of time. You want them to believe that if they don't actually take action, then they're going to miss out on some big opportunity. And this is where scarcity comes into play. Now, it's important to mention that the 6 principles of sales psychology are nothing without priorities. And when it comes to cold emailing, you want to ensure that you're focused on the things that are going to bring the biggest impact. And this priority matrix is something that I have actually leveraged often in order to ground me. When it comes to cold emailing, you want the quick wins so you can ultimately drive faster towards your goal, which is to get a signed contract in place, make a placement, and get paid. You do not want to waste your time focusing on tasks that actually might not yield you anything. So for example, the quick wins that can actually get you somewhere are focusing on that follow-up, as well as being consistent about following the plan that you have actually took the time to put together. Some of those thankless tasks that you don't necessarily want to focus your time on are researching new strategies and or tools, as well as not batching your campaign, meaning that you're reaching out to one prospective client each and every day instead of actually doing campaigns that are targeted and reaching out to 100 prospective clients. Now, starting a recruiting agency is a lot, so there's a couple things that I do want you to keep in mind as you go through the process of determining if this is going to be the right step for you. Number 1 is that there are many solutions to a problem, meaning that there is no one right way to go about doing this. You want to ensure that you create a strategy that works best for you, your time, and where you're currently at. There's an opportunity out there for you to start small and ultimately get bigger in scale as it makes sense for you. But understand that there are a multitude of ways in regards to how you can start within the recruiting industry. Number 2 is what you believe is what you will achieve. You have to go into this believing that you have the opportunity to make an impact as well as make a positive impact to your income. If you're going into this in regards to being able to help job candidates to find quality jobs, understand that you have the opportunity to be able to do that. You just have to believe that you can. The same holds true for your financial goals. If you want to start a recruiting agency and make multiple 6 figures a year or even 7 figures, you have to believe that you already have it within you in order to be able to do that. Otherwise, you will not succeed. Number 3 is that it's okay to fail as long as you fail fast and you actually learn from it. And this is probably the biggest lesson that I have learned and continue to keep top of mind as I run my recruiting agency to this day. Understand that you will fail. You will fail multiple times and it's going to be painful and it's going to be extremely hard. But the thing that's going to make you different from other recruiting agency owners out there is that you're not going to quit. You're going to fail fast and you're going to learn and you're going to take those lessons forward in order to continue to reiterate and make your business better. But understand that failure is definitely going to happen. It's what you do with that failure that's going to be the most impactful for you and your business. Number 4 is consistency is always key. And I cannot stress this enough. I think I've mentioned it in multiple YouTube videos that I've done, but consistency is going to be the difference between you being successful and not. You have to be consistent. Even when it's hard, even when you feel like you're not getting the results, being consistent is ultimately what's going to lead you to being successful. Number 5 is your mindset is everything. And this kind of ties into some of the other ones that we've already gone through, but it's important to understand that what you feed your mind is ultimately what you're going to be able to achieve within this business. You have to be positive, you have to be optimistic, and you have to understand that in order for you to actually be successful, you have to believe it. So your mindset is everything. If you don't have the mindset for this business, or if you're extremely negative or just extremely pessimistic in regards to what you can achieve, it's not going to help you in the long run. Check your mindset now. That way, as you continue to grow your business and scale, it'll ultimately always be in the state that it needs to. Number 6 is to enjoy the journey. This is definitely a journey, and it's not going to be a success that's going to happen overnight. You're going to have to put in a lot of work, time, and energy in order to get your recruiting agency off of the ground. But what I can tell you is that looking back, I enjoyed every part of it, even the parts that were extremely difficult, because I learned a lot about myself and ultimately learned a lot about what it takes in order to be a business owner. So enjoy the journey, even the parts that are tough. Number 7 is that success is going to take time. As mentioned, this is not a business that is going to make you rich overnight. And if you're thinking that that's the case, then I definitely encourage you to look into another business. This is going to take time. It's going to take energy, especially for you to do it right. So just understand that success is not going to happen overnight, and that's okay, because you want to build something that is going to be sustainable and ultimately that you can pass down for generations to come. And number 8 is that getting help is okay. I will be so transparent in the fact that I even got help in regards to my own business. I didn't necessarily know all of the puzzle pieces to put together in terms of being successful, and when it was appropriate, I definitely leveraged help. And that's okay. You're not going to know everything, and I think admitting that to yourself from the very beginning can be extremely helpful. So with that being stated, I actually want to go through one of my favorite quotes, which has actually stuck with me since college. Dennis Barcima was my college professor, and this still resonates with me to this day. It's okay to start off small. If what you're doing is important, the world will make you big. And I want you to understand that you can definitely be big in regards to the recruiting agency. You can definitely be big in regards to the recruiting industry space. You just have to believe that you can, and understand that starting off small, being scrappy, and really taking your time to figure it out and be intentional is absolutely fine. If what you're doing is important, if what you're doing is going to make an impact, which it absolutely can within this industry, then the world will make you big. The world will make you successful, and ultimately you'll be able to hit your goals. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, then be sure to give me a thumbs up, as well as if you are not in my Facebook group, then I highly encourage that you join, because we are in there talking all things recruiting. I'll be sure to leave that link down below in the description box. And I also don't want you to forget about the program that I have, in which I teach you how to start your own recruiting agency by working hand in hand with me. So if you're interested in learning more about that program, I'll also be sure to leave that link down below in the description box. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.